to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about a couple cars I've been working on at the body shop and also show you a little bit about what I'm working on the 63. So if you haven't noticed, I've been working on a couple other Corvettes. I've been working on that 60 Corvette at the body shop, and I started working on a 58 Corvette this week. So I want to talk a little bit about that. By this video I don't mean to bash on anybody. I don't want to hate on anybody or anybody's work. I just want to tell a story because it's kind of a crazy story with this car, and it's a good life lesson in general. So that car is a 1958 Corvette, and it was brought to a couple different body shops. You know, one of the classic stories, a guy worked on it a little bit, punted it to the next shop, he worked on it a little bit, punted it to the next shop. So that car was at the body shop, and the body guy, he's been getting sick with cancer, so he got so far with it, and then they kicked it down to the road so he could get another guy to work on it. And that's actually whenever this car came to him. So he got rid of that car, this car came in its spot, and he worked on this car. And then after this one was leaving, he brought in that 58 again to work on. So that 58 had a hand-laid front end put on it, and they put the cowl on the car wrong, so I think it was tilted a little bit to one side and it was rocked forward. And whenever he got it from that body shop, he paid pretty good money to have them put all that stuff on, and they put it on with body plastic, you know, like the pink body filler you buy at Lowe's or Home Depot or Advanced Auto Parts. And he paid a lot of money to have them put that on. They put it on wrong, and they put it on and they had the doors laying in the car, the roof wasn't on it, and the deck lid didn't fit. So Dave got the car and he tried putting the doors on it. Doors didn't fit because they put everything on wrong. So one thing led to another, and they ended up at this body shop that I'm at now, they ended up cutting the car in half to fix the problem. I'm not sure whose suggestion it was, and they didn't just cut it, they cut like a 2-inch channel out of the center of the car. So like between the doors, through the rockers, they didn't cut the frame, but they cut through the body, and they were going to close that gap. They cut the car in half, and that didn't fix the problem. So they cut the front end off the car, and the guy decided he wanted to sell the car, and he had a guy coming to look at it this Tuesday. So he called Dave on Monday and said, I need my car down. He called him at like 2 o'clock. He said he wanted to come pick it up. So we rushed and we pulled the front end off. I ground all the Bondo off to get a good mating surface, cleaned it up, and they tweaked the body to get it to line up. And they took measurements off of that 60 Corvette, and then they filled in the channels in the body. There's literally a hole that goes the whole way across the floorboards. Not exaggerating. It was a 2-inch channel that went the whole way across. So where they cut the body, forgot I had tape there. So where they cut the body was like right here. So it was like right in front of a brace in the floor. So there's a 2-inch channel. So what they did is there's an aluminum frame in a C1 that runs in the rocker channel. So they reattached that once they got their door measurements from across the top, middle, and the bottom. They got those measurements, lined it up, attached it, and put ratchet straps to hold it true. And then they used some fiberglass panels to build pieces, reinforcement strips on the inside of the rocker, and then they would put the piece of the rocker that was taken off on top and glass over top of that. They didn't get a chance to do the cosmetic stuff or to fill the hole, but they got the body square. So that was taken care of. I'm working on vent windows now, that's why I have it taped in, just test fitting. But back to the story. So once we got the main section of the body attached, then it came time to glue the front end on. We just used panel bonding fuser for fiberglass and bonded it the whole way around the inner fenders. The inner fenders stayed on the car. We lifted the nose off. They aligned everything. We put it back on, did the test fitting, then we glued it. And it lined up good. If we had a little bit more time, we could have filled the floors back in and then did more cosmetic work. But we screwed the front end together to keep the bonding adhesive tight until it dried, because it takes several hours for it to dry. So that took some time, but overall it came together nice. So the car, being a C1, is a convertible. So if you use this as your reference, on a convertible there's a lot more variance because the roof doesn't keep it tight. So especially on a hardtop car, because it latches the front and you have your pins in the side and in the back on the deck lid. So the deck lid's adjustable. On a C1 the windshield comes off, so that's adjustable. So there's a few more variables there to worry about, and whenever he came to pick it up, he wanted to put the windshield on and the hardtop on to transport it and to make it look better. So even though that car came in for a paint job, it needed a lot more work, but it just goes to show that was a very reputable guy that put that Corvette together the first time, and he didn't use the right materials, and he charged the guy a lot of money to do it, and the work wasn't the best. And whenever the car left the shop, it had the doors laying in the car. So I mean, they couldn't even say that that's why they wouldn't finish it or why it went to another shop. I just want to tell the story a little bit just to show that it's possible to fix any of these things, unless it's burnt to a crisp. But there's a lot of cars that are still fixable out there. Even if they look really bad, there are ways to fix it. But also to say that even if a shop appears to be good, you never know, and you definitely want to pay attention to what you're getting, because you'll never know. Even in this car, whenever I stripped the paint off of this car, there were repairs that were hiding underneath the surface that you really, if you looked closely and you knew what to look for, you would have found a lot of them. But one of the big ones on this car was it had a minor accident in the back. I think the bumpers probably caused most of the damage, and they put a new 1/2 quarter from here back on this side. And if you looked really closely when it was hot, you could see a couple holes that would pop up and maybe a little bit of a seam, and that was from where they drilled their holes and either riveted or screwed it together. And what they did is they took a piece of that quarter panel they didn't use that would have been on this side from that new panel, they made a bonding strip on the back. So I guess whenever you're repairing fiberglass, if you're not putting in a new panel the way that GM designed it, you have to seam it, and you put a fake bonding, or not a fake bonding strip, you put an additional bonding strip that wouldn't have been used from the factory in there, because every joint has a bonding strip to take some of that stress. And I guess you can't just mat glass in air because it's not strong enough. So if you want to make a strong repair, you have to use a bonding strip. So anytime you do a non-factory style repair on a Corvette, only one side can look factory. So with the case of that C1, what they were going to do was put like a 4-inch wide strip across the floor in the car to fill that hole on the inside, and then the underside you would glass that and fill that and make it look nice and smooth. And when the carpet went in and the foam and the padding and all that stuff, it would hide that, and the seats would hide that. So you wouldn't know from that standpoint. Or on the rockers, they would put that factory cap on it and you wouldn't know, but underneath there's an additional bonding strip for strength. So I wanted to share that also, because there's a lot of cars out there that you see, or if you go to swap meets, you'll see cars that are cut either, a lot of times you'll see them cut here or they'll cut them here, and the price of a body for one of these things is getting ridiculous. I mean, there's a company building replica shells without the bird cage, without any of the steel, without like the steel crossbars. It's just a shell. They wanted like $17,000 for it. I don't think that comes with a title, and it comes with doors that don't have any guts. There's no provisions to mount hinges or any guts, regulators, vent windows, nothing. So if you could take an old shell that's cut up, now mind you, it'll take a long time. It took us a day and a half to get that together, and if you had another full day or two in it, you could get it body worked to the point where it's nice. So there's still a lot of usable shells out there if you're willing to put the time, money in, and it helps to have a reference car. Like doing stuff on this car, it's nice to look over here and find something that's similar and refer to it, just to help things go together. Just to help things go together that much easier. So it really helped to put that 58 together, having that 60 next to it, which was a no-hit body, so you knew the numbers were going to be right. and that just made it go a lot easier. So if you have a basket case, and if you can get a reference car sitting next to it, you can make a nice car. Pardon the mess. Right now I'm working on the vent windows. I just set it in here to practice installing it because it's a little tight in here. It goes in pretty much one way. And I'm new to polishing stainless. I've done a little bit before, but I think the inside came out really nice. I wanted to sit it in here to check, to make sure that it was nice and shiny, and at this angle I wanted to make sure I didn't see any swirls or any funny looking marks, but it came out nice. The front needs done, and I need to do the rest of the hardware, but I'm going to do a video on this coming up, and I'll have a bunch more videos coming up. But I think that's going to do it for this time. I just wanted to share that little project. I'm going to have more projects coming from that shop once I work on different cars. So be sure to check out the rest of the channel. I have lots of videos coming up on various Corvettes. Be sure to check that out. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, like it, subscribe, share with your friends, and I have a lot of work to do. So I'm going to get busy and buff. Yeah, I'm going to buff. So I'll catch you later.